Yeah, that's interesting, right?
Yes, interesting because, and in fact, I mean, even the young lady does not come out boldly to say that she can conclude that. Because ideally, for you to be able to come to the conclusion, somebody might tell you that why did you go there or raise it as an issue. And when you move beyond that, somebody should be in the position to say, but a very smart institution, or maybe an institution that knows the procedures, will be smart in not giving you that reason so that you may challenge it and becomes a problem going into the future. But it's the connection that's what's making the trend. That this is a young lady who has spoken out about a very terrible situation, and her case was phenomenal because people were saying other things, but because of how serious the dialysis situation had just been propped up, and we saw those pictures and all of that, she giving a face to it was very huge, and that's why it went viral. That is where the connection is coming from. That hopefully it's not, let's say, an overzealous private employer who is bent or removing her because of this, because they don't want the connections with the demonstration. And because we have seen people who are in government or working with government institutions basically identifying people who went out there on the protest and saying that they ought to be dealt with. For example, there are those, if you happen to have your father or your family member working in government, you are more likely to be identified as somebody who shouldn't be in a protest of this sort because your family appears to be some way or somehow benefiting from it. So that's where the connection is being drawn. Hopefully, this is one of those situations, because it would have been very, very unacceptable. I mean, yes, you can recruit and lay off workers, but the expectation is that, and it fuels a certain environment that even protest is not guaranteed. As in peaceful protest, and the peace after that is not guaranteed. That is where the difficulty is coming out of this. And if you have checked, there are many more others who are springing out, the various identified groupings who have posted or identified individuals and said, yeah, we know you work here, or you also work here. You don't deserve to work there because it is related or it's being owned by somebody who should be beneficiary of government.
At the risk of sounding jejune, let me ask this: why is the name of the employer not coming up in this conversation? Why do we not know who her employer is?
Well, because they've not put it out there yet. I mean, she herself did not do so.
It seems like it's being protected.
Even the gentleman on the Harvard advisory board said, why don't you put out the name so that we can all confront them and get the facts that we want from this particular situation in a way that supports the cause.
Anyway, we're joined by Martin Kpebu, of course, needs no introduction. Good morning, Martin. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Kojo.
So I'm of two minds on this one. The lady herself is not quick to claim that her her sacking is connected to her demonstrating, but it's already sparking a lot of controversy.
Yes, Kojo, but at least half a dose is better than none. The fact that she's granted the interview it's not bad at all. It's commendable. And like the way we said, by granting the interview, she said a lot that she hasn't said expressly. You see, she said a lot that she hasn't said expressly, because the most important fact that she's giving is having been terminated within 48 hours of the demonstration. So the rest is left for us to deduce. So she's just been, there are a number of principles at play here. She has to be careful not to burn her bridges. Maybe in the next employment, she will need a reference from her previous employer. So if she were to do it too hard, they may not be willing, or they may say unsavory things about her, so to speak. So for me, I think that just speaking, it's not everything that has to be said expressly. She's done well. So what we are left with is that, Joy FM, please, could you beg you must do this for us. You have to go under and bring us the name of the company. The company has to pay for this. Look, let me tell you, I'm being charitable by saying that management acted childishly. That's very childish. You can't be so proximate to the, the demonstration. It can't happen, not for anything. Not for anything under this sun. Even if she stole, I'm not saying she stole. The management is so childish. Please, look, we have to be very hard on them, because, look, If we don't, we'll be giving other companies an incentive. And could this is not the first time. No. When we did our we reloaded demonstration last November, that's what they did to one of our organizers. The guy works in one of the ministries. He was kicked out of that place because they said they are making government unpopular. Then he was transferred to another place. And they were not willing to take it. They tossed him around and then now they've placed him in some corner. I didn't get enough time to find out if I could disclose the names of the ministry on his behalf. But he was one of the key persons in our demonstration. So if you go back and look at the people who did, I think he was the only one from the public sector. And this has been going on. Ghana doesn't belong to just a few people. It's for all of us. We want to build a strong society. So I've been looking at the labor law, or am I running ahead of myself? I should wait for the question.
Well, I was going to ask another thing before we get into the law of it. So let's assume, and we don't know the facts, so let's just take this scenario. Let's assume that she was actually not very good at her job. Maybe she even stole or misconducted herself in some other way before this demonstration ever happened. Let's assume that all the necessary investigations and everything had been done, processes had been gone through, and it had been determined that she must be fired for whatever reason. Are you saying that as a private company, they should have somehow taken the fact that she attended a demonstration and appeared on TV recently, and based on that, decided not to sack her until some future date?
Absolutely, Kojo. Absolutely. Because there's a PR angle to this. That's why I said they've been very childish. They should have known that for a lady who has been this vociferous and who has become the face of the fight for better kidney care, the dialysis and everything, the story was going to come out. So if as management they couldn't foresee this, then they themselves, they have no business being in the various positions they are. It should have been clear to them that it will come out. So they were required to wait. Well, anyway, but it's good riddance that they've done it this way so that now we've caught them and we are calling them out. So, well, that's the other way of analyzing it. But if they were pros, if they were really pros in the industry, if we let some time pass, at least maybe after 3 months. After all, if there was pressure, so now let's look at it. Either the management are excessively benefiting from the sole sourcing contract this government is engaged in and looting us left, right, center, or they are just diehards who may not even be benefiting from contracts, etc. You don't do that. Maybe you talk to the other people that look, lawyers may come after us. And true, I've seen lawyers have started discussing on some pages that they want to offer pro bono service. They will sue for her. Because in this case, if you look at all the circumstances, under our law, you can sue the employer to come and justify the termination. The way this one has been very proximate to the demonstration, yes, it's good we test the law because the law says, look, yes, you are free to terminate, okay? We're talking about Section 15 of the Labour Act. But like you said, we've not seen her contract. We are just discussing generally. But the law goes in Section 63 to make it possible for the employee to sue the employer to come and justify the reason. So you may see the law is given with one hand, takes with the other. You may terminate, okay, if the contract says terminate. But if from all the circumstances, the termination looks sinister, under Section 63, you can sue, and then it will be the duty of the employer to come and justify. And that happened in this Supreme Court case of Kpebu versus Ghana Manganese. Yeah, the Supreme Court, through answer JSC, he even lauded it. Justice Ansah said, this provision is a welcome relief because hitherto, because of the fear of termination, it made workers docile. Already the Ghanaian is docile. And then if the risk of termination added, then it makes it super docile. So Justice Ansah said, no, this provision, 63, that they ask the employer to justify, etc. It's a welcome relief. So please, Diana, look, lawyers are saying that they will fight for you any day, that she may have to go to court and call on the employers, come and justify this termination.
Okay, if you just joined us, we're talking to Martin Kpebu. We're considering all the angles to the recent news that the young lady Nasiba, whose outrage during the Occupy Jilobi House demonstration started a national campaign for dialysis treatment, has been sacked. She was sacked just about 48 hours after she attended this demonstration. She herself has not drawn a connection between the two. However, the whole nation has been discussing it. And lawyer Martin Kpebu suggests that, first of all, that the employers may have been childish in making the decision so close to the day that the lady appeared at that demonstration. But also to suggest that perhaps there are grounds for legal action, and that some lawyers are lining up to do just that. Of course, this conversation is important, so forgive us. We're going to use the BBC News time to conclude this. Martin, you described their acts as childish, but how does it rise from childish to unlawful? At what point does it get to the stage where the law or the courts need to be brought in?
Okay, yes. So what the law says under Section 60K is that if from all the circumstances it can be inferred that the termination is unfair, then the employer is liable. So when we say from all the circumstances, as I said, no matter what is in the contract, you will find so far she didn't even say she was brought up before a disciplinary committee, because from what she said, she talked about ill health. So she recovered, came back, and has been working for 3 weeks. So, and she hasn't said there's been any medical evaluation, because I'm just eliminating the grounds under Section 15 of the Act. If the employer were to find that the employee is unfit to continue working, that would be grounds. But so far, she hasn't said she was taken to board, like the way in the public sector they call it, the medical board. She wasn't put before any medical board and declared unfit. So we are eliminating all those ones. So what you are left with is a situation in which she has returned from the leave, sick leave, has been working for 3 weeks, nothing untoward is happening. She goes to a demonstration, and she comes 48 hours later, she's terminated. So that everybody's suspicion is aroused, for lack of a word in this case. You see? So once we all are suspicious, don't forget, when we go to law, it's on the balance of probability. This is a civil case. So when she puts all these facts together, okay, and don't forget, we also are yet to know the identity of the company. We may well find out that they are gross and indecent beneficiaries of sole sourcing contracts or unsensitive government contracts or something, whatever. We'll find. Once we know the name of the company, some other facts will come out to color the act. So we put all together, and it looks like this victimization. Straight, the employer is liable. So it would come to the judgment call of the judge, looking at all the facts. That's what the law says. It says, looking at all the circumstances of the case, the termination looks, that's the word, looks unfair. So you put all of this before the judge. If he says this looks unfair, that will be right. Yeah. That will be right. And that is the law. Section 63.
Is there a risk also of public sentiment, sort of overtaking itself, and then innocent people or companies ending up being vilified? We saw some people sharing lists during the demonstration of companies and encouraging people not to patronize them because they are somehow connected to government. Long list of companies, people were just throwing in names, willy-nilly, and calling for their businesses to be boycotted. Are we not at risk of doing something similar if we are not in full possession of the facts of the matter?
Oh, I don't see it from where I stand. What's happening? It's a democracy. So, if we find that company X is a disproportionate, gross, and indecent beneficiary of single source contract, well, as we call it, sole source, right? There is every reason to call them out. There is every reason under this sun to call them out. Because we have long made it clear that a single source contract should be meant for those urgent, very sensitive, contracts. But now we have a situation where they say, one last report I saw, they say about 80% of the contracts have been sole source. Something that Gabi, when they were in opposition, referred to as thievery. Yeah, under the Mahama administration, when sole sourcing was so obscene, Gabi referred to it as thievery. Something has played it on the news file show, so, and I'm sure you could even know it. Give me more examples, right, if you have them. So what we are saying is that as a society, we have made it clear that instead unjustified use of sole sources, single source, we will name and shame companies, etc. So it's within, because it's not everything you can take to court. Look, one of the single source contracts, Zipline, I know Honorable Norby took the matter to court. It's been stalling. It's not I can't say it's the fault of the court, not at all. From what I know, rather, maybe it's other factors. Things like funding. You know, it's very expensive to go to court. You need a lawyer. So if you don't have money to engage a lawyer, etc., it won't work. Is that not why we created freedom of information, etc.? The point I'm making is that it's not all the time that we have to present disputes to court. Sometimes we deal with it by way of public opinion. And I'm sure there are 1,001 examples I can give how we deal with certain things by public opinion. So the list, I haven't seen it. If I had seen it, I'm sure I would have mentioned a few. Because that's the right thing to do. So please, could you publish that list? Publish it, make it a news item. Because this is the only way we can improve our democracy. Yeah. That's the only way we can improve our democracy. Okay. The courts alone can't do it. It takes time.
Well,
so if there are shorter and other effective means, by all means, let's use them. Yeah, and if you check America and elsewhere, they do it. Companies come out to state their position. You know, when Trump was in office and misbehaving and all that, there were companies that came out and dissociated themselves and condemned his, the chauvinistic statement, the harassment, all those things. Yes. So political speech, companies have the right to make political speech. So I'm making the point that it's not even for only us individuals, but the companies that are doing business legitimately and feel hard done by the single source contract of this corrupt Akufo-Addo administration have the right to also make political speeches. Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, most of the companies on that list, which has now been deleted, were restaurants. So I don't really know whether it had to do with single sourcing. But your point is well taken. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Martin Kpebu, of course, prominent Ghanaian lawyer, even if he disagrees. Thank you very much. All right, real quick, guys, before we move on. Jojo?
Yeah, could you, I'm just looking at the Labour Act, for instance. I've seen grounds for termination of employment. Contract of employment may be terminated by mutual agreement between the employer and the worker, beg your pardon, by the worker on grounds of ill treatment or sexual harassment, by the employer on the death of the worker before the expiration of the contract of employment, by the employer if the worker is found on medical examination to be unfit for the employment, and by the employer because of the inability of the worker to carry out his or her work due to sickness or accident or incompetence of the worker or proven misconduct of the worker. Now, if I listen to everything that has happened in here, few questions. So somebody goes on sick leave, returns, works for a week, 2, 3, goes on a demonstration, comes back to work. Then after the demonstration, coming back to work, that person is told, while you were on leave, somebody took over, what, and we now would want to give the job to that person. Quick questions. So at what point in time did the company realize that the person who took over was better? Were they giving the young lady a chance to prove herself? And so they decided, okay, come back, work again, and then after 3.5 weeks, they realized that that person who took over was okay. In any case, what was her role? At the time that she was going on leave, couldn't anybody within the company have taken on that additional responsibility? Timing is very, very important. And if you look at the chronology of events, it leads itself to the conclusion that something just doesn't add up. If the company had this decision in mind, I am sorry, their timing is very, very wrong, hence the conversation we're having today.
I mean, nobody can prevent the private company from saying that today we don't even want to operate again, or we want to actually sack every worker, we want to liquidate the company and move on with our lives. Now, what then becomes a problem? It is when it's almost connected to an incident that becomes a national issue, because we here took up the matter of the kidney crisis. And I'm sure if she had said 1,001 things on the ground, most people would have cared. It was that kidney issue that was played out. That was actually what was key. And there's so many people on the ground. If you couple with the fact that there are people within the state, actors who work for the office of the president, one way or the other, singling people out and saying that they will have to be dealt with one way or the other because they are either beneficiaries or their parents are beneficiaries. These were the same set of protesters. Mindful of how these protesters were actually treated, you feel that connection, even if it's not real. And there could be 1,001 reasons why anybody will be sacked. But you feel that connection within the period that it happened, even if it's not real. And it's up to, for example, the company, mindful of what it has become now, to say, no, there is no connection between this termination and that. There's also no relationship. We do not care about whether you protest or not. Because ultimately, there's already a conversation about limiting the space of free expression and the protest that we actually believe in. So if this altogether becomes a stumbling block in the enjoyment or the expressions that people would want to have, in any case, what she pushed for, we all know, and we sit here every day to say the same thing, that it's an extremely important thing. That is why the connection is being drawn. And I'm saying this can be clarified by all the sides. In any case, there are people who are promising her jobs that appear to be way more lucrative or perhaps more better than what is being done out there or what she was doing previously. That connection certainly is resting on this particular set of facts that have happened prior to and just after the protest.
The truth is that there are lots of questions to be answered, lots and lots of them. Was she terminated or was she dismissed? Under law, these are two different things. So which one was it? Was she terminated or dismissed? We haven't seen the letter. We haven't seen the reasons given. There's a lot that is required in order for the full picture to be drawn. But I think it is also of interest that the company is yet to speak to this. Maybe it's because they haven't been named. So there's no, motivation for them to wade into the matter. But why haven't they been named? Another thing I don't understand.